Hello, and welcome to the Weekly Scroll Podcast. My name is Ryan.
And I think billionaires are the real demons.
And today we're joined by a very special guest. This is Zachary, also known as Jelly Muppet, all over the internet. How you doing today, Zach?
Hey Ryan, hey Hunter, how you guys both doing? Yeah, having a good, nice, warm evening here in the UK.
Good.
Yeah,
Stoked to have you back on. Welcome back. Good to see you.
Yeah, I've got to say this is like my fifth weekly scroll or something now. It must be. Like we've done a lot of these talking about books.
Yeah, I think probably after Jur, who is like a regular guest at this point, I think you've probably been on the show more than literally anybody else.
Well, then I'll do what I can to upstage Jur as always, like one of my missions in life.
I also think we probably reviewed. Mission. Yeah, I think we probably reviewed more Soul Muppet games than any other publisher. I'm pretty positive.
We are long-standing Soul Muppet fans.
Yeah,
we did put in a lot of games.
Well, you put a lot of good games. Put a lot of good games. We don't review bad games, so I think that says something. And we were talking before stream that you guys have been pretty busy because a lot of stuff is hitting people's hands right now. Like I said, I have Gardens of Yen and Stygian Library. Just got all my Orbital Blues Afterburn stuff. So a lot of stuff is hitting hands from Soul Muppet early this year.
The main thing I'm sad about is that the people who are listening to this as a podcast, rather than watching it on live with us on Twitch or YouTube at the moment, cannot see what those Orbital Blues books look like. Specifically, the VHS Adventure Collection box set full of pamphlets, which was while it was a logistical nightmare to make and find, I'm now very happy that it exists and people will be able to run Sad Space Cowboy campaigns with it. So like that's a big win for us. But yeah,
extraordinarily cool. I have my roommate collects like media, and he does collect VHS. And he's like, "Oh, what's that?" And I'm like, "Nah, not for you, brother.
This ain't for you, brother. This does something different." Yeah.
I think one of the last times you were on, probably to talk about Afterburn, you were talking about how hard it was to source the VHSs, and they came out so beautifully. If you're in podcast land, definitely, Hunter, show that up one more time, and I'm sure at some point we'll throw it up on screen and talk about it too, and it'll be on the Soul Muppet shelf behind me. But yeah, they're gorgeous. Yeah. But on top of that, the reason you're here, the logo above my head, today you're here to talk about Mad as Hell. So I guess just to kick, what's the pitch? What is Mad as Hell?
So Mad as Hell is Soul Muppet's newest role-playing game. It is a collaboration between myself and Evie Moriarty and a bunch of incredible artists. It is an anti-capitalist demon hunting game where basically capitalism creates violence against marginalized people and the vulnerable in society, and that violence creates demons. Those demons then prey on the communities and are always like specific and local and mirrored to a harm dealt against a community or a group in your local area which you are a part of or related to in some way. And then that is something that has to be fought because it's hurting people and it is an enemy to people, to the vulnerable. So it's a game about like sort of creating, like protecting your communities and acting in appropriate ways to sort of fight the effects of capitalism upon marginalized people, and do that in a way that is like interesting and fantastical and exciting to play. The game's kind of split into a couple of steps, but like I said earlier, the demons are not just like a generic monster that is like a goblin. It is a demon of religious bigotry, or a demon of property gentrification, or a demon of food deserts, or a demon of a lack of insulation in homes, or whatever, like all kinds of stuff that is a product of capitalism that has then created some kind of horrid monster. Now, you don't just fight those demons by punching them in the face. You have to work out what they are a demon of, what violence they create to, and how they act, and then relate that back to a way of fighting them. that specifically for those demons I was talking about earlier. The quick start one is a great example. It's called the Pipe Leech, and it's part of the choir of leeches, which are all to do with the negligence of landlords and how those affect working people who are living in housing. So the pipe leech is about lead piping. So the way you fight the pipe leech is by hitting it with pipes that do not contain lead. You put it through a water filter, you throw tablets at it. You sort of like have to do this kind of really intricate dance of like theory, like leftist theory about like what this thing relates to and how we would actually solve this if it was a real problem. And then once you do that, you're going to go out into the community, you're going to kill the demon, but the demon's just going to crawl back through a portal from hell a few days later if you don't actually solve the problem that created it. So at that point in kind of Act 3 of the game, once you've worked out what the demon is and how to kill it, you have to make sure it doesn't come back by implementing direct action in your community to prevent the harm that created the demon in the first place. So for our pipe leech, that's going to be, finding safe housing for all of those people, fixing all the pipes yourselves, getting the landlord to do it for you by whatever means are necessary. So effectively, what we're trying to create in the game is a safe, lightly fictionalized environment for people to learn about what changes they can make in their local community. Because obviously, these demons are a metaphor, right, and an idea.
Yeah.
But the things that create the demons still happen in real life and they need changing. So the idea for us is it's about showing people in this safe space that can be, at least a little bit habit learning and educational, what tools of direct action look like, and inspire people to work out what they can actually do to improve the state of the world going forward.
Yeah, that's incredibly powerful messaging in your tabletop RPG.
Yeah.
I mean, Soul Muppet's always made games about politics, right?
Right.
But, Best Left Buried is about workers' rights and mental health in the workplace. Orbital Blues is that same stuff, but it's self-employment. Inevitable is about the environment. Gangs of Titan City is about crime in a difficult situation in a crushing urban environment. Paint the Town Red is about like my personal relationship with depression and substances and queerness, right? Whereas this game removes all subtext entirely and just says the thing it's about. This is about fighting capitalism in a way that is more approachable to a normal person, a person who has strong left-wing feelings or sympathies and knows people who are vulnerable and being affected in these ways but feel powerless to help. They are mad as hell, they don't know what to do, and we want to show those people what productive action looks like through the medium of this game, which is also fun and is also a beautiful piece of art and writing, because that's what Soul Muppet games are fundamentally.
Absolutely.
So we've made a thing that is very obliquely about the thing it is claiming to be about, and are hoping to, show that to as many people as possible and create a positive change.
That's really cool. And by left-wing feelings, you mean the ability to experience empathy and recognize problems.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sure.
Leftist, not liberal, which is just being nice under capitalism for the liberals out there. So I guess first and foremost, like, where, obviously you said that Soul Muppet has always been political, and we clearly are not an apolitical podcast.
We're not?
Like some, according to our comment, we're definitely not. But where did the idea for this kind of, like, what was the impetus to actually make this specific game? Like, where did it come from?
So Mad as Hell was something that me and Evie, who wrote the majority of the manuscript, I'm kind of mostly involved in doing production, a bit of art direction alongside Evie, and kind of all the project management-y stuff. But we came up with a pitch together, and essentially we started to understand that like we wanted to make this game about how we were feeling, this sort of something that was set in a very modern place, right? A place that felt incredibly current, because we were having all these feelings and we weren't really sure what to do with them. And we're both games designers, so when we have really strong feelings, what we do is make a game. You know, I find personally writing RPGs much easier than writing poetry. Evie's a much better poet than me, so they're going to have an easier time with that. But honestly, there's kind of like the cynical part of like where the product development came from is that I kind of identified that we have a couple of fantasy games, we have a couple of sci-fi games, but like this and Paint the Town Red are both like very firmly set on Earth, right? Paint the Town Red being more historical, Mad as Hell being shockingly current, right? You are encouraged to play right now, like, or tomorrow, preferably. One of the things that became very clear to us while designing is that there's this concept known as bleed in RPG playing and writing, which is like the idea that characters sometimes portray the characteristics and emotions of the people playing them and vice versa, right? You know, you go through those things and it's generally like understood by the safety community that like bleed is a really dangerous thing that can happen, where like you're putting a lot of your emotions into this character starts having an impact on you. And a lot of the advice you get in games is about like minimizing bleed in terms of safety, right? That's what safety tools can often be for. Obviously, we've got loads of those in the game. We've worked with sensitivity readers because of the list of stuff this game is about. But one of the things that Evie was always pushing for during the game, and I sort of agreed on wholeheartedly once we spoke about it, is that this is a game that's trying to maximize bleed, right? This is a game where we want you to feel the same rage that your characters do and the same sense of power when that change can actually be productively made. That's why, like, the setting is today. You are meant to play in the city that the characters around the table live in, or at least a shared space that you understand, right? And you want to have people you know appear in the setting, organizations and locations you understand, because like that way the thing is going to feel the most cutting, the most potent, and act as that like educational, emotional space that we wanted it to occupy. So like we very much kind of came up with the initial idea together, sort of worked on a prototype, realized what we wanted to do. I say prototype like an initial pitch, I mean. And then Evie went away and wrote it, and then we worked on the rest of Soul Muppet worked on giving feedback and implementation there together. So it's something that kind of, formed out of that want to make something about how we were feeling about the decade long at this point slide into chaos politically that I feel like the West is going under generally. I think the West is melodramatic, just the entire fucking world, honestly. And make something about that, because we were angry as well. And that's where kind of we settled on the name midway through. We were looking at lots of other titles and eventually went, Mad as Hell's really good. Like that was something we wanted to do. We wanted to fit hell in there because it's about demons looking at different things. Yeah, this is a game about leftist rage, about people feeling helpless in their situation and us giving them the tools, hopefully, to help them find out what they can do in that situation. One of the things that we made as part of the project is the Radical's Handbook, which is alongside the free quick start for this game. You can grab now on the Soul website. All of our games have free quick starts. Is like a zine that is about actually it's an in-world setting zine about like demons and how they work, and it's illustrated and commented on by various sort of characters linked together. It's got this sort of handwritten homemade vibe. It's been illustrated by Scrap Princess, and it's like essentially as close to a political manifesto as we're going to make, while also being something that is a really helpful onboarding tool for your players that like your characters or you might find at the start of a campaign. You know, it gives a load of advice in there, so it's hopefully like a powerful tool for us to like tell people about using this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. And you guys do such a good job with that kind of, you know, that in-world zine is great. The stuff that, all of the in-world stuff you do with Orbital Blues, but also the quick starts too. I mean, just throwing it out there, even this quick start is hyperlinked. So it is really nice to see that. I'm throwing it up on the screen right now for those watching. Definitely want to go snag it and go through it. And layout Die Sugars, if I pick it out correctly, is that who's working on this one?
Absolutely, yeah. We're working with Die on this one. Returning, having done a load of work on Orbital Blues, Afterburn, and Inevitable, I think this is Die's strongest work yet for Soul Muppet. It's really, really good stuff. And I'm super happy with how it's gone. We've worked with like an incredible collection of artists on this game. Been lucky enough to work with, like I mentioned, Scrap Princess, who's done the art for this. The cover design for the game has been done by a guy called Alex Eckman-Lawn, who is a three-dimensional collage artist. When I initially, me and Evie Evie spotted him early on, I think, and we were like, oh, I want to work with this guy. There's something here. And I was like, oh, we can make a book with holes in it. So it is three-dimensional collage. And kind of went into this call with Alex and was like, hey, we want to do this. You've got these plans for a book. I'm going to get you as many layers as we can. Would you be interested? And he was like, you don't have to do that. I'll just make you a normal book cover. And I'm like, no, let me be a sicko. Let me do this. And like, that's a space we're always trying to operate in. Like Soul Muppet's always trying to one-up itself in terms of physical production from the previous project, you know? And that's our step towards it this time, this unusual modular book. That is also going to have different dust jackets you can swap out on this multi-hold, different layered book, all of which are going to be beautiful in their own right, but kind of be combined together. The alternate covers or the main cover will also go on the GM screen, which is also going to have a hole in it. You know, like there's going to be nonsense. And then our other artist for the interior of the book is an incredible artist called Per Janke, this guy from Germany, has done like these two incredible opposing styles of art for the different halves of the book. It's hard to tell this from the quick start, but we've kind of split the layout into like the player section, which is where the characters exist, where the players are going to read. It's like about the radicals, right? And it's full of these like repeated friendly characters, these really bright colors, these sharp shapes, this kind of comic book-esque style, along with a series of like repeated player characters who we can see throughout the art, who are in these series of connected communities in a city somewhere in the world. And then that's contrasted with the second half of the book, which is like explicitly enemy territory, this kind of clean, smooth, dehumanized, faceless, brutalist layout that is like acting in that space. And one of the things that we're always trying to push when we do one of these books is that I want the layout to feel like the genre it's trying to represent. You know, thus our books are objects that come with a sense of place, whether this is like matching the way that we do art commissioning and layout with a particular style of artist and the feelings we want this section to evoke, or a random bit in the middle of the book on a different paper stock, which is presented as an in-world zine with all these sketches on it, to, you know, how it's done for Orbital Blues, where like a lot of the art is in-world and you feel like you're flipping through an artifact that exists with a sense of time and place specific to the genre we're aiming for. So like that's the sort of aesthetic that we're always aiming for, always hoping to aim for, kind of pushing always forwards in that direction in terms of physical production and digital design.
It's crazy how you guys do that successfully, like every time, you know, because obviously, you know, again, we've been Soul Muppet fans for a long time, but I feel like every project you guys put out is this next step in production and stuff. When you look at Orbital Blues. Then when you look at Afterburn, it's crazy what you guys did with the VHS and with even like the new editions of Orbital Blues. But again, the numerous dust jackets and not one but like two cutouts in the cover of the book is crazy. That's gonna look so fantastic. I'm really excited to see that.
My printer hates me.
I'm sure.
But
Yeah,
she likes charging me for it. So, if we can make it work, it's going to work. And hopefully that's going to be it's going to look fantastic for physical distribution as well. Yeah.
And we talked about the kind of like a little bit of the play loop earlier in when you were talking about the game, where it's not just about, you're not just like going out to punch demons and punch capitalism and things like that. You have to identify the core root of a demon and not just defeat it with what you would use to defeat those problems, but then prevent its return. But you are, at some point you're gonna punch a demon, and the core rules of the game are kind of like the Soul Muppet system, right? It's like the roll two dice, have over 8, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So we put a lot of work into this. Evie did some like really intelligent design, which kind of sits within the space of the Soul Muppet engine, but exists in an entirely different place. A lot of the combat in games like Best Left Buried or Orbital Blues or Pintown Red is like meant to be incredibly zoomed out and cinematic, whereas like the power level in inverted commas of these radicals is like way lower than a specific Orbital Blues character.
Right.
These aren't always adventurers or people committed to violence. They're people that like we know, right? Leftists who exist in spaces, some of which will be familiar with some of the tools of doing that. But like an average character does not start with a gun, right, or a sword. You're just a person. It's possible in some parts of the world, depending on where you live. But like, yeah. And the escalation mechanics in combat there become really interesting because you kind of enter into this situation which is called violence, right? And one of the really important hallmarks of the Soul Muppet engine so far is that you're always doing these stat checks. They're always like 2d6, looking for an 8 or a 9 with advantage or disadvantage, depending on the game that you're playing and the situation you're in. You've always got these stats, which are usually like related to your characteristics, like how the character looks, right, and how they behave, right. Stats are really different in this game. We'll talk about stats in a minute, but in this game, in Mad as Hell, you can always keep re-rolling dice by accepting more distress, right? So you can keep going, you can keep rolling, you can keep pushing your luck, and sometimes you need to, because while these things that you are fighting, they are like incredibly dangerous demons. They are monstrous creatures from another dimension that hate you and want you to die, right? Because they are the manifestation of capitalism in this like physical, specific, horrid form. As a result, as well, the characters kind of have a really different feel. A lot of the progression in this game is tied to like the accumulation of the strength of your community over time, because each character is a member of two communities. They're like a really important part of character creation. The hero characters know each other. It's kind of the source of all of the need for this stuff to occur. You're related to people, you care, you have empathy for the people around you, and you're sort of like working with these communities to draw on them for like resources, contacts, information, equipment, right? And you gain that, and once you draw on a community's cohesion to get these resources, which you're going to need to do, that resource stays for the rest of the campaign, and like you can call back to it in the future. You now have that resource. So like character progression isn't based on how sad you are or how many mental breakdowns you've had recently, or how much money you've got. It's specifically tied to like what you have done in your community and how you've been able to help them and how they've been able to help you. So it creates this like real meshing consistence of solidarity. You also get these magical items called totems by killing demons. Each character starts with one of them. They're tied to a specific stat. We'll talk about stats in a minute. And they sort of allow you to do a small magical thing. They're sort of imbued with the power of a given community that's managed to defeat or kill a demon. But yeah, And the stats, instead of being like brawn, wit, and will in Best Left Buried, or savagery, allure, duplicity, what you have is this like the verbs by which these characters interact with the communities around them and with capitalism. You start with solidarity, which is your ability to like talk to people, interact with communities, and draw strength from those around you. You then step to conspiracy, which is sitting in secret, lies, sneaking around, breaking locks, doing all that stuff. And then there is militancy, which is fucking throwing a petrol bomb at someone, you know. And that is the steps upon which these characters are going. And like, obviously, militancy in particular is more nuanced than just armed revolution. But like, those are the verbs by which we give your characters to interact with the world, which is way more interesting to me than like strength, friendship, and sneaky, right? You know,
Right.
we've specifically labeled them to concepts and behaviors within leftist movements.
Yeah. And like the community aspect of it is such a obviously like the core aspect of the game. You talked about getting totems with community and things like that, but cohesion is a really interesting part of the quick start that I was like digging into. So what exactly is like cohesion with the communities, and how is that kind of going to affect the gameplay as well?
Yeah, so the cohesion is like a measure of the strength of your community in a given situation. It starts off kind of related to the number of player characters that are in each community. Each character kind of makes one themselves, and then you go around the table and be like, oh, I want to join that community. Oh, I want to join that community. I want to join that community. So you get this like lattice of explanations why all these characters know each other, because they're always going to have a community shared with at least one other person in the party. You're kind of drawing on the cohesion of the community to create and manifest these resources, or you know, it might be, oh, I'm trying to solve this problem to do with science. Maybe this agricultural allotment in town is going to help me solve this problem to do with a plant sample or something related to a demon of a certain type. Or you can be like, oh, this hat space that one of my characters is a member of is going to have a laser cutter and a load of aerosol spray cans, which are going to help us make these protest signs, right? You know, and you can keep like drawing on communities in those ways to create those resources and those people, which then like stick around as something for the entire campaign, and that aspect you can always call back to. You can reuse those laser cutters and aerosol scans at a future point if you at some point need to make something different, or use those spray paints to make improvised, you know, flame torches or whatever. Like all kinds of stuff you can use and utilize that equipment for. But cohesion is like at risk from the activity of demons and also people as you are playing. If like someone in your community is killed, or there is some sort of violence or a threat made against them by demons, or indeed like mortal agents of capitalism, which do exist in this game very explicitly, and they're the main issue, honestly, and in real life. You're going to lose cohesion there. You're going to gain cohesion by like fighting these demons, closing wounds in the world, killing demons, and like removing some of these more complicated, you know, relationships that they're like removing the glare of these agents of capitalism from the communities that you're in. So you can effectively like, you're trying to always like gain cohesion over time as you deal with like an increasingly more severe and complicated selection of demons, because as your characters are leveling up, we've kind of got lots of options in the full book which you're not going to see in the quick start, which are going to be like different demons working together, or like choirs of demons. I mentioned like the Choir of Leeches earlier, which is like a collection of landlord demons. We've made suggestions of like some of the other leeches available. There's dupes, which are really powerful demons, which have other demons pay fealty to them. And there's lots of sort of like other options in there for like campaign progression as you play that kind of can make things more complicated and kind of create an arc for a longer campaign in a given city.
This is so great. You really grabbed me and Ryan when you got to landlord demons, I think, you know?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite things about this entire thing is like the complete and total like lack of subtlety that but still has a like nuance and like it still looks good, it still plays well, but like the demon of like landlord leeches is like the least subtle thing possible, even though like it's really great and fits into the game, because like everyone is going to know exactly what you're talking about all the time. As soon as you like, so many of these problems are things that everybody face on a regular basis. So to just be like, oh, it's this thing, but it's a demon, and people are going to be like, yes, I 1000% understand exactly what you're talking about, and that's great.
I think one of the most interesting things about talking to people is that like when you kind of like explain what mad as hell idea of a demon is and like how it might impact and sort of the way the gameplay loop of the work is, like every single person I've spoken to about this game like decides they are a games designer and starts riffing on different type of demons that could exist, right?
Yeah.
Because it's such an appropriate concept, and like these things which are these violences created by capitalism are literally legion. There is an infinite number of horrid things that can occur as a result of the violences of the state and the oligarchs that exist within this current socio-political economic system that we dwell in. And Evie is like the mastermind behind a lot of this stuff. I'm kind of just standing next to them and smiling while they come up with increasingly interesting and maniacal ways of like expanding this metaphor we've made until what we're coming out with is like a really beautiful piece of art that is also going to like hopefully have a meaningful social impact upon spaces that we're in the world around us. So I'm very proud and very happy to see how that is developing. And I think it's one of the things as a publisher and a person who like works with lots of creatives, it's such a pleasure to just surround myself with all of these incredible and talented people and be able to give them just so much money, in exchange for like making this thing happen that is then going to generate excitement. People are going to play the games because like I'm so looking forward to like when this game in its majesty lands upon the table in its full form. Like already, I think this is like probably our most played quick start as far as I can tell. Like people seem really excited about it. There's a couple of actual plays going on at the moment, some of which we've sponsored, but some of which have kind of just sprung up really naturally. So I'm really excited to see how that's going to go. But yeah, once we start getting more material into people's hands, like I think there's some real wonder in this game.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's so approachable to everybody, because like there's people that are like, I don't really like space, or I don't really like dungeon crawling, but like everyone goes, yeah, I paid too much fucking rent, and like there's this thing that's like broken that no one's fixing, or like every single person has difficulties that they're gonna face. So I think this is gonna hit. There's nobody that could read this book and not relate to some aspect of the issues that you face on a regular basis, and how they can feel like demons, and in this game you can actually fight them, just like you should try to fight them in real life. But you said the quick start is obviously the quick start. There's things that are missing from the game. One question I had is the character creation of the quick start is like you choose characters from a list. Is that going to be the same in the book, or is there going to be more of like a make your own kind of character aspect of it?
The game contains like a full series of character creation. You'll be choosing stats, you'll be making your own communities, you'll be like going around. There's a bunch of random tables for those. One of my favorite things in the character creation is this thing which we call the vibes table, which is just like a D100 table of like one-line descriptions of weird leftists that you like will be on that list, and you'll be able to pick out people in that list as well. It's been written with like sort of real piercing interest and like understanding of like the leftist marginalized queer communities, and kind of looking at how those people to behave, and kind of looking at that space as well. But yeah, there's full character creation in there. There's a much bigger selection of totems as well, stuff on making your own communities. And then the back half of the book contains 12 demons, and there's another 12 coming in the first the expansion zine we're doing, that's called the Field Guide to Hell on Earth. And that is kind of just like another selection of demons from a bunch of guest writers. And we've tried to hire writers we can that have different perspectives that are going to try write different types of demons. Those have been like really exciting to approve the pitches for. I'm hoping to like be able to show off some of those soon as we start like getting further into the writing phase. The other thing that's in the book is a load of GM's advice about how to run these longer campaigns and sort of a way of expanding and networking these bestiaries together to make sort of longer sessions. And also this thing that Evie has written called the struggle framework, which we're really happy with. Essentially, we kind of hit this challenge when we started writing adventure content for this game that like, because we want every session to be set and every campaign to be set in like the time, the city you live in right now, right? So I'd be playing in Nottingham, UK, but you'd be doing it in whatever city it is. We can't write an adventure that fits every city in the world.
Yeah.
So what we've kind of written is this kind of set of like archetypal characters that are going to exist in sort of any given city that you can, and then like locations that you can mesh together with those characters and put them against different communities, and then sort of walk you through like different steps in the 3-act structure of a traditional adventure, and like how that might look to help people weave it together. Essentially, like it's a toolbox or a framework for running sessions of like extension campaigns with like this cast of repeating characters and sort of working out that. It's kind of got a list of allies and adversaries, mostly mortal ones, obviously, and then looking at kind of how to weave that campaign together. So that's like a big percentage of the book, because it's kind of that was a bit of an unsolved challenge for us. Like, I think that was one of the most difficult parts of the game's design, because the bulk of the game and the theory came together pretty quickly. But working out how to actually write an adventure that's easy for someone to run, that can be set in any time, in any place, with any group of people, was like much more challenging. But I feel like we've landed that, and that'll hopefully be something that will be really easy for people to use once the game is out in full.
Do you
kind of
like
see the framework of that within the initial quick start? Yeah.
Do you like foresee ever doing any like game jams for Mad as Hell?
I think that would be a fantastic opportunity to do some game jams. Like,
yeah,
because I think adventures for Paint the Town Red, for example, like a standard Paint the Town Red adventure is like 5,000 words long, which is like something really serious to commit to. And like, but I think that a Mad as Hell demon is like 500 words. So there will unquestionably be a game jam that will be running for when this comes out, and like hopefully be able to put a load of those creatures together. I'd be really excited to do something like that. I think this is a really game jammable game.
I very much agree. It'll be really interesting.
The local spaces.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see, like, as people make their own kind of take on these adventures, like kind of like locally to where they are, what the issues are that they see and that they choose to tackle. And I'd be really interested to see what because I live in a city in Oregon that just cut a bunch of funding to a bunch of social programs. And so I immediately already know what maybe the first 2 or 3 adventures I would run would be, but I'd be really interested to see what somebody on the other side of the world who's also dealing with the downfall of capitalism sees as their like initial jumping off point.
One of the play tests that we ran was kind of for a bunch of the Soul Muppet staff. So I'd already read all the demons. So Evie came up with a new demon based on something that was in the news recently in Nottingham, where there was this proposed plan that the council in the city we were living in were going to do, where when it was nighttime, they were going to try save money by only lighting areas that were critical paths and making sure that all of these side streets didn't need to be lighted because they did the data and no one was walking on them, apparently. And obviously, like, what type of areas do you think they'd pick for when they decided which lights they were going to turn off?
The wealthy ones.
Exactly. It's gonna be there. So, and that then created a demon that was like about a demon of, it was kind of like this long-limbed spider thing that was like stealing and blinding people that existed in the dark, and it was sort of a tall lamppost wrapping predatory kind of drop spider kind of thing, and like that was related to like something very real and meaningful which happened in a local community that Evie was involved in. And thankfully, people got together and said, no, you can't do that. That's insane. And managed to lobby the council not to turn the lights off. So managed to get that sorted. But that led to like a really interesting impact of like, oh yeah, this is something that happened in real life. It's going to keep happening because, you know, even though there wasn't a demon that would eat people, it makes people scared to go outside their homes at night. It creates risks of slipping in the ice in the winter. You know, there's lots of like correlating issues, and that turns into a demon.
Again, the approachability of this is insane. Like everyone in the world has problems, and being able to make those demons and figuring out how to fight them, and as you said, like as a community, how to keep them away is incredible. And everyone in the chat, everyone, all of us here, like as soon as you started saying stuff, I came up with like 10 things in my town where I'm like, that's exactly the first one that I'd fucking run. So like, it's really great to hear that you put in a framework to make it a lot easier for people to make the things that they want to make that affect them the way that it affects them. Because as you said, like the issues that I'm dealing with in my town are going to be completely different than ours, which is completely different than what you guys are doing over in the UK. So it's really incredible to make that such a core aspect of it is the approachability for anyone across the world.
So one of the things we've done there as well to kind of help out is that obviously the book has advice for making demons in it, but we're working now with Elliot Davis on a stretch goal for the game, which is this thing called the Scarred, which is very explicitly a solo game, which is what like point is. But when we make solo games at Soul Muppet, I always try to make sure that like this isn't just a solo game you're going to play if you can't get a group together, right? Or you fancy playing a solo game. It also has like prep elements that we can build into it, so it's useful as part of a larger campaign. For example, the Paint the Town Red solo game Morning After that we're hoping to release in the next week or two is like about building a city and kind of like helping you do that with all of these like prompts and card drawing and building those things together. Whereas what we're doing for the Scarred is that specifically it is about helping people make more demons. So what will hopefully happen as a part of that game jam is we won't just be like, oh, make a demon, write it here. It's going to come with like maybe even like a solo game playthrough that you do beforehand, which is going to help inform your writing. And that's going to be based on like, look at the news and see what's happening in your local area. What are people angry about? You know, that's like a very easy first step of that, you know. So always wanting to like push that approachability. Obviously, as with all things Soul Muppet makes, this is going to be held under the same license. So you are free to make demons of your own and post them on itch.io and charge money for them if you want, because I want always other people to be able to contribute to an overall artistic community and there to be more material than I have the time or energy to write, or Evie does as well, and kind of to supplement and foster that kind of third-party space. So yeah, there'll be a game jam. It will be about demons in the local space, so who knows what it'll be about, but we'll be supporting this game for as long as we can in as many weird ways as we know how to.
It's crazy that the company that is putting a game out about like building community to fight demons also wants to like build a community within like the artistic space of the game. So no, that's great.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
The Kickstarter, what people can actually get for when they go back this project, because you guys still, I mean, it just kind of recently dropped. There's still 17 days to go on this, so there's plenty of time for people to go grab it. But what can people grab when they go back this project?
So the core pledge that we're pushing people towards is like the core book with the dust jacket. It's got everything in it you're going to need to play. PDF and physicals are available. There's also a couple of add-on bits we have because we've hit the stretch goal. Everyone who backs for at all will receive a PDF of the solo game we made. And then there is also going to be a physical add-on for that. There is a GM screen, which is going to be able to be adaptable with the various covers. It's going to sort of have a slot where the mouth of the face comes over it. That's probably quite badly worded. We've got this thing called the Field Guide to Hell on Earth, which is a selection of 12 more demons that you can use to double the amount of demons in the core book. And we've also prepared, if people are interested, this, which is the zine edition of the Radicals Handbook, so you can hand it to your players. Right now, this is going to be presented inside the Mad as Hell core rulebook as like a dividing section on a different paper stock. So that's just something the printer said they can do, and who's going to stop me? God, she wouldn't dare. So we're going to have a weird book in the middle of our book. But if you want a second book, we can make that happen as well. And there's more stretch goals coming. We're hoping to do some more demons. There's a couple of patches you can get as well, in case you have a battle jacket that needs to say Mad as Hell on it. And there's all kinds of future shenanigans as well. We're always working on more stuff here at Soul Muppet HQ. By that, I mean my house.
That was going to be my next question is, there's obviously a lot going on right now with this project, including all of the extras that you just said. Is there already an eye on like what's going to come next with Mad as Hell? Because I know you said you wanted to support this game for a long time. Is there a plan for like an official release sometime in the future? I know you always got a million ideas cooking.
Well, obviously, all this stuff will come out in physical at some point, hopefully before the end of the year. But like, I think it's much too early to be considering like what the All Blues Afterburn of this game looks like. We've still not even finished the first crowdfunding project yet. And I think like often with this stuff, I let my own ambitions get away with me. But that'll be out hopefully at some point towards the end of the year. The PDF's going to be ready soon. I'm hopefully looking at before the end of the summer. And we send it off to print and hopefully get some books to back us as soon as we can. But like, that's the priority right now. Like finishing off this wave of stuff, working out what we can do in a way that doesn't massively negatively affect all of the timelines we've already set up, and then move on to the next thing and the next steps. Because obviously we've got books, we've got a crowdfunding project every 6 months until I drop dead. We're not necessarily a crowdfunding project, an exciting new product release every 6 months until I drop dead. So yeah,
there you go. So we're gonna get Paint the Red soon, or Paint the Town Red soon. We're gonna get this, you said, hopefully physically by the end of the year.
Physically by the end of the year is a hope. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
I will be very happy to get a book with like this many holes in it by the end of the year, which would be fantastic. And I know that if you go to the Kickstarter page, obviously you're here on the Weekly Scroll right now, but there's a lot of other stuff going on. My First Dungeon, who are incredible. I know you've chatted with a bunch of them. The One Shot podcast, like there are a lot of things going on outside of just our conversation with Zach for people to check out. So if you want more information about what's going on, to see people actually playing the game, make sure you go to the Kickstarter page and check out the links to all of those at the bottom, so you can see the game actually being played and have hear different conversations about this game, which is gonna be up there as like one of my favorite projects in the works right now from Soul Muppet, which is saying a lot because my edgelord ass loves Best Left Buried, but this one seems incredible, so really excited to see what's going on with that. So this is Mad as Hell. Again, 17 days left to go back. You should definitely go snag that. All the links will be exactly where you think all the links are going to be for all of that. But Zach, is there anything else you want to say right here at the end about Mad as Hell, or to encourage people to go snag it?
I think we've hit all the big notes. Help us make some kick-ass art about how much we hate capitalism, and sorry for charging money for it. I guess we live in a society. I want to make sure all the artists get paid. There's a free version of the Radicals Handbook and of the Quick Start that you can grab right now. They will do you for more than a couple sessions of play. You should be able to have a lot of fun with that. And if making demons is as easy as it sounds like from this conversation we've had, you might be able to spread it out for even longer than we've given you credit for. So yeah.
Absolutely. Zach, always a pleasure. Please come on for every 6 months, every time you guys put out a project. We'd love to have you back on and talk to you some more. Yeah. But this has been great. And again, super excited for this project. It sounds incredible.
Yeah, we'll be back in September, October. Hopefully, I've got Dark Souls cooking. It's called Doom Spiral.
Ooh. So, well, my birthday's in October, so we'll just call it a birthday present for me.
There you go.
Perfect.
But, again, seriously, thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure. So really appreciate it, and thank you everyone that was here in chat, and for everyone that's listening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And we will see all of you later.
Bye. Bye.